What's going on, everybody? I'm Matt, and this.
Is the monster. With us today, we have Jenny from Friday Blue.
Hi, how is
That's
everybody?
pretty good. How you doing,
How
Jenny?
you doing?
Good so far.
It's one of those days, right? On a Friday. It's the magic day.
Today we're going to
Hope
be
so.
going over a bracket of Ohio mythical creatures.
Ohio Cryptids.
Ooh.
This season on Mats and Monsters, we're going to be featuring a bracket tournament. Let me bring up that overlay real quick so you guys can see what we're talking about. We'll get a fancier graphic later. We picked the 8 most famous cryptids in all of Ohio. From top to bottom, we got Grassman, which is the probably the biggest Ohio Bigfoot legend. We have the Charles Mill Monster, an insane-looking alligator-like creature that's almost the size of a semi-truck. You have the Kirtland Melonheads, which were crazy human experiments that happened here in Ohio. That look up the Melonheads. You have to like see the shape of their heads to even believe this shit. You've got the Mothman of Gallia County. That is when the Mothman went right over the bridge into Ohio from West Virginia. You have the Crosswick monster. That you know what? I totally screwed up. Crosswick is the alligator thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The Charles Mill monster is actually this giant, like almost swampy type thing that doesn't have arms, but it's humanoid. It's weird.
That sounds crazy.
Yeah, the Loveland Frogman or Frogman in this case, basically 3 to 4 foot amphibian human blend type creature. You have the Peninsula Python, which is like I'm talking like the Anaconda movie size python. It's ridiculous. And the Werewolf of Defiance, which is your basic Wolfman / Dogman type story out of Defiance, Ohio. So each week we will be featuring different matchups where we're just gonna basically talk it through with our guests, whoever we have on hand, and figure out who wins. The first, I'd say, 2 episodes, we're gonna be featuring 2 matches, and then after that, we'll just match an episode. We'll be doing 6 episodes this season, so that should be lots of fun. But yeah, that's our big plan. One of our overarching things. That's why we're different than just a regular wrestling show.
Exactly. We
Yeah.
got the best of both worlds.
Exactly. So let's start it off, man.
Let's do it.
We decided we kind of do a little bit of, we got to establish our credentials, I guess they call it, or talk about why we're doing the show in the first place. So we wanted to talk about what got us into wrestling originally. Why don't you go ahead and get started?
So, I was about like 6 or 7 years old, and my dad had this old Monday Night Raw DVD from 1994 and 95.
Don't you have that over there?
Yes, I do.
Why don't you go grab it? Go grab it. Yeah. He actually happens to have this because he started working at a pawn shop here recently, and they actually had it in stock at this pawn shop at random, and his boss just gave it to him.
On real quick.
See, if I'd thought about this ahead of time, I would have had him grab it, but I'm not that organized.
It's this DVD right here.
They can't see that, buddy.
Oh.
Oh, that's going to be the problem, yeah. Didn't think about that. That's what happens when you're using a virtual background. Sometimes you can't see. So put your hand behind it. I'll help you. Okay. All right. That didn't matter. Nope, didn't matter. Didn't matter. But anyway, he's got the DVD. Technical difficulties. But go ahead, man.
Yeah, so it's like the first 2 ever seasons of Raw, and then like one of the main reasons why I fell in love with it was because there's this it's like one of the first ever ladder matches on there with Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels, like early Shawn Michaels, like right after the breakup with the Rockers.
Yeah. Oof.
So he was just trying to prove himself, man. And that match is one of my favorites.
Oh yeah. So it was really that DVD that got you into like wrestling period.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah, man. So for me, I was a little one. I was single, like early single digits, and my dad had been a big wrestling fan for years. Before I was in the WWF, and his father got him into it long before the WWF really even existed. At other federations, like other televised events and stuff. So he got me into it on a Sunday morning, back when they actually had wrestling on a Sunday morning in the 80s. So he put it on, and I remember the first thing I ever saw was Captain Louis Albano. It was just an older guy with rubber bands in his ears. And I was like, what the hell is this? And then from there, dude, you got to see Hulk, got to see some Ultimate Warrior. And I just kind of got hooked. And that became one of the few things that me and my dad did together for a long time every Sunday. It started out just Sundays. And then, of course, we started watching pay-per-views and everything else. I'll talk about that more later. But that was it, man. Just Sunday morning fucking WWF.
Even before Mondays.
Yeah. What about you, Jenny?
So my parents had died, and my Uncle David and Aunt Janice adopted us. And my Uncle David absolutely loved watching wrestling. It's something he did every time it came on Mondays, and then on Wednesdays when it started coming on then. And then I watched with him to have something like daddy-daughter to do. And then I just really liked certain characters like The Undertaker and Kane and like the bigger guys to see how they would actually fight and move forward in matches and stuff. I generally never fully got into it, like an understanding of everything, but I enjoyed watching and talking about it with them.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. Been throwing some comments down there at the bottom of the screen. I'll be doing that throughout the show. If it's pertaining to what we're talking about, we'll stop and acknowledge it and like bring it into discussion. Yeah. Otherwise, I'll at least still bring them up. And we'll say our hellos. So shout out to Del and Jeremy. Thanks for showing up for us this Friday, I guess evening, night, whatever you want to call it. Also, I'm gonna be bringing up something that you're talking about here in just a minute, Jeremy. For now, what we need to do first, and this is always fun. We got to go back to the bracket because we got to start off right now with our first match in the bracket. So let me bring that back up. And again, I'll have a fancier looking one here soon, but short notice. So our first matchup is actually going to be the Grassman and the Charles Mill Monster. So what I wanted to do is explain a little bit about each of the legends. So the Grassman, let's start with the Grassman, obviously. He is also known as the Kenmore Grassman or Orange Eyes. The name Orange Eyes comes to become, although he is the traditional Bigfoot-looking creature, his specific quality that sets him apart is that he has orange eyes. And you're said to be able to see like the orange eyes glow from in the woods and things like that when he's nearby. So it's sort of, there are normal, typical Bigfoot tales all over Ohio, but the Grassman in Kenmore was like one of the big things. And that's out near Minerva and Athens, Ohio. Just a fun little area. Fun fact. He's actually really close to Mothman. Really? Mothman is like only maybe 20 to 30 minutes.
That is nuts.
And we'll talk about that'd be nuts if they end up meeting up later in the bracket. Yeah. But we're not biased. We love all cryptids equally. Exactly. The first prominent sighting of the Grassman occurred in the small village of Minerva, Ohio, in August of '78, when the grandchildren of Minerva residents Evelyn and Hal Clayton, along with their friends, ran inside screaming about a hairy monster they saw in the gravel pit outside. When the couple went out to investigate, they saw that the crying children had described it. It was covered in dark matted hair, sitting in the pit, and filling with discarded trash. It was estimated to be around 300 pounds. Claytons fled, but this would not be their last encounter with Ohio 8-Man. I'm not going to get into every sighting because it's just going to bore the crap out of you guys, if we're being fully honest, for a wrestling show. So that's what we got kind of going on with that. I can actually pull an early image of what they believed it to look like, even though it's not exactly not a fantastic one, if you ask me. But, it's what we got. So let me pop that on in here real quick.
How often have you seen cryptids pose for pictures?
Well, this is like an artist sort of rendering situation. And that was the artist rendering of what they believe this looked like.
Alrighty.
It's the earliest rendering of it, which is why I wanted to include it, because it's just, it's fun. At least I think it's fun. So,
I love it.
Next is let me get back to that real quick. On our bracket he's going to be up against the Charles Mill Monster. So Charles Mill Monster. All right, let's bring it up again. The Charles Mill Monster. In 1959, 3 young men from Ohio claimed to have had a face-to-face encounter with one of the most bizarre critters ever to emerge from a seaweed-strewn lake bed. An encounter so brief and perplexing that even most cryptozoologists don't know what to make of it. Much like its island counterparts on the flip side of the Atlantic, Ohio proves to be one of the preferred stomping grounds in the U.S. for more than a few unique species of aquatic-based cryptids. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, too, with the python and, of course, the frogman. But that's the big thing. 1959, 3 young men claimed to have seen this thing. And since then, again, very, very many sightings of this thing have gone on since then. Every year there are sightings for all these cryptids, so it's not like they're one and done type cryptids where they were seen once and never again. Like all the cryptids we're going to be talking about are pretty prolific as far as things go. Sweet. So what we're going to do now is we're going to switch over to see an artist's early rendering of Charles Mill Monster.
Yes. This one I've actually found playing cards that you can buy for 19 cents.
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
Super cool, man. So that's what we're looking at, man. We're looking at Bigfoot versus something also equally the size of Bigfoot that's more swamp based. And it was weird because it said that like he's humanoid, but when it starts to talk about his arms and stuff, I guess he does have arms, just not in the way like Bigfoot has arms with like the hands. Like
yeah,
I'm thinking more Creature from the Black Lagoon style from the way. Yeah. Like something between Swamp Thing and Creature from the Black Lagoon, basically.
That's what I was thinking.
So most are known to be fantastic at disguising themselves and like blending in with nature. They both have what's believed to be superior strength. Yeah. And I gotta be honest, I think their fighting styles here are gonna be, the big guy.
Yeah,
they're gonna be like a Kane,
tossing and stuff like that.
Yeah, like a Kane, Undertaker, Brock Lesnar. Big. Tossing, a lot of slams, a lot of choking.
I think my biggest question would be, would the swamp type creature have to have water at any certain point to continue breathing?
That's actually a good question. I thought about that earlier and looked it up. So it can breathe just fine out of water as far as anyone is aware, because there have been just as many sightings out of the swamp as there has been in the swamp.
Okay.
So that leads me to believe it's not like a Nessie situation where it's completely water dependent.
Would they be fighting on his turf or the grassman's turf?
Traditional, no one's terms, traditional wrestling ring.
Okay, that would make would be interesting.
Yeah, outside show. Yeah. This is an outside show, exactly. So like an outdoor amphitheater type situation.
Yeah,
woods adjacent, but nothing.
So if we get into the crowd. Some people could get hurt, but
Yeah, people will be standing by. No worries. We're not going to worry about the logistics of the human life that will necessarily be lost during the creation of this kill count championship. But that's why it's called the kill count championship.
Exactly.
Most definitely. That's why I'm trying to make sure which turf they're fighting on. If there's going to be extra things like, do they get to use chairs, chains, whatever?
Oh, yeah, they can use whatever they want. It's going to be set up like a traditional wrestling death match. Now, it's not an actual death match. If you guys don't know what a wrestling death match is, basically there are no rules. Any weapons can be used.
And it's not a caged match.
Correct. It's all open air. Open air match. And the other cool, interesting thing about this with the wrestling death match, they're not actually to the death. It's just a one opponent can no longer go on.
Okay.
Not to say that accidents have not happened in wrestling history during death matches, and they're generally you generally see like these type of matches in Japan usually.
Oh yeah.
But we're bringing it right here to some random backwood campgrounds of Ohio because that's where I kind of feel like this whole thing would be set.
Well, yeah, we're doing your cryptid, so of course we would be doing your somewhere in Ohio.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay.
OCW, Ohio Cryptid Wrestling.
There you go. You just named it right there.
My thing is, will the roughness of the skin from the lake monster help him out as a benefit for like a shield?
It could, but also the slickness, because the moss. He is a swamp creature, and it might actually make him a little bit more difficult to grip onto.
Well, yeah.
I think just from that alone, and with them having like the same strength.
I'm gonna stop you for a second. You need to be in one space, buddy, because you keep disappearing like bad. All right.
Yeah, just with how versatile it would be, just being able to slither around and having the same strength, I think that he might win.
Just from the slipperiness.
Yep.
We got Dell coming up here with come on, get down with the slickness. That was smooth. Let's also consider this. The Bigfoot as a race, as a classification of cryptids, are very intelligent. They're known to be exceedingly intelligent. This is not necessarily a known quality of his opponent.
That is true.
So
very valid point.
You've got the scales, which means he's a little tougher, a little more armored, and you've got the slickness. But the Bigfoot's got a well above average intelligence, as opposed to this particular creature.
And from what I have seen, well, from what family members have seen, they know how to use space around them, how to like fold into certain areas to give them a upper hand.
See, that would be really helpful in the ring too, to be able to realize your surroundings behind you and like stuff like that.
Let's talk about their hands for a minute. Again, you've got fully opposable, all the fingers you need on the grass man, but that's not exactly the same case here when we're talking about in terms of being able to use weapons. The Charles Mill Lake monster.
They have enough grip, like the Charles Mill monster. Would it have enough grip on its hands to be able to keep hold of any weapon it has that doesn't have like a curvature? Would it necessarily know how to use it when he picks it up?
These are very valid points.
Yeah.
Very valid points.
So let's just say, for sake of argument, we give the Charles Mill monster basic human intelligence.
Yeah.
Which is, comes with the knowledge of at least how to use a tool. A basic tool, nothing complicated.
Yeah.
So we give him that. But we also consider that his hands, again, like the rest of his body, are slick.
They could fall out easily.
Because he doesn't have that opposable thumb to kind of lock it into place.
Exactly. You might be swaying me more towards Bigfoot.
But they both have some like solid things going for them, though, if you ask me. Like really solid things going for them. I think, obviously, I'm a Bigfoot guy. Like through and through, I'm a Bigfoot guy. So I'm trying to be a little bit more, good and bad sides about both of them.
I am full, in this particular instance, I would be more for Bigfoot as well. I'm just trying to weigh all the general common sense options of how they both would do it if they could, and what they could use with my knowledge of watching matches in a wrestling ring, what they have available around the ring, and what they could use if they noticed that it could be used as a weapon.
Okay, so let's set the scene a little bit more. You're in the middle of the ring, right? Traditional wrestling ring. Outside, you got your setups. You got your ladder sitting out there. You got some chairs. You've got, your shopping cart full of signs, trash cans, kendo sticks, any possible thing, and a kitchen sink because, it's everything in the kitchen
Why not?
sink. So all the traditional, things you'd find in like hardcore matches. Tacks, glass. Let's also consider they're probably going to start off hand to hand, I would say. Yeah. Right off the bat, these are two big guys, and big guys love tests of strength traditionally in wrestling.
They do.
So I think they're going to start off with that test of strength.
No, Dante.
So we're going to come into these two things being about the same size, about the same weight, roughly.
Yeah.
One's slippery, so the grip, the hands is a little bit difficult. Now they have enough of because they're webbed, so they can't even completely lock hands traditionally.
That's
so
true.
They're going to be going to palm, up and down dynamic here. Okay, Dell is envisioning vine-like limbs. That's possible. That is very possible. It's not a lot has been discussed as far as that goes. So let's envision vine-like limbs with that kind of strength. It can definitely wrap around certain objects. Yeah, for sure. Not all objects, but you see things in films and let's say cartoons for the sake of this, where a tail or a vinyl, reach out and grab a bat.
Yeah.
A chair with 2 limbs, yeah, I would say a chair, definitely, even a ladder. So I don't think any of the weapons are necessarily off the table
Yeah.
for this thing.
And also depends on like the strength behind the vines of like his limbs as well. Like because the Sasquatch could just rip them off.
He could potentially rip the vines off or break the vines in some way, which would probably be easier to do than hands, for example.
Yeah.
So let's going to assume right off the rip that that's a Bigfoot move. That's also a Wookiee move. But you know, let's say he goes Chewy for a minute and he rips its vines off. Presumably, this thing can survive that, and traditionally with nature, it can probably over time regrow the limbs.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, they get into the feat of strength. I think that's what happens. I think Bigfoot actually does remove the vine arms. So now it has no arms. It has no weapons available to it to use, but it's still got its strength. It still has clubs, you know, the equivalent of clubs in its hands, or you know, what's left of its arms. So let's assume it at least has that. This thing is now in a situation to where it can't block blows that well either.
Nope.
Unless it stubs up, but it's not going to block those blows. And I have to believe at this point in time, I'm not even sure Bigfoot goes for weapons.
Nope.
He could.
He does not. I think he just straight up just picks him up and slams him. Just like so hard. Like
I would envision
it's not going to
him
look so well.
body slamming him, hitting him, figuring out how to get him caught in the ropes of the ring to continue hitting him or kicking him or whatever. But also on the other hand, with the Charles Mel monster having been living in water, I don't know if you guys have gators over there or whatever, but I can picture him picking one up, picking other animals up, eating them, so he would have some amount of strength. So he could have already at least used one to grab the Bigfoot and start hitting him, getting him in a place, possibly also using the ropes to get him in a better position.
Okay. So you think the Charles Mel monster isn't just going to take the beating, he's going to at least use those club-like whatever he has remaining, and okay.
No, I don't expect him to take the beating. I expect him to get up and give it the best try he can.
Okay.
Oh yeah, because it's that predator instinct too.
That's true. That's a good point. That's a very good point. So I think then there's a lot of back and forth. Oh my god. Okay. And exactly like Michelle said, some creatures are able to regenerate limbs. That's exactly what we mentioned earlier. There would be regeneration, but between the kind of creature it is and also being plant type based, I think it's definitely going to regenerate, but I don't imagine it'll regenerate quickly enough.
Yeah.
I think it's going to regenerate quicker than anything we've ever seen in nature, but I think it takes some time to do that. And even as it regrows, you know, say it's super speeded up, not instant, but it takes a couple minutes to fully. Yeah. So then it's, you know, it starts with the clubs, and as the match goes on, you know, the arms start to form again. But I think it already loses that initial, like I said, feat of strength, because it's, you know, the initial vines have been removed. Gator aid. I think what it comes down to is, you guys remember they did this like combo toy. It was like a Stretch Armstrong type thing for wrestlers, and they also had the wrestling buddies.
I know about the wrestling buddies.
I think if you were to combine the Stretch Armstrong wrestlers and the wrestling buddies, and that is basically what the Charles Mel monster is going to be in this situation. It's going to be like a kid beating shit out of a pillow that can stretch really far, and then seeing how far you can stretch it and to tie it to different things until it comes apart.
Yeah, basically.
I like that.
I see that as it's kind of the ending, but again, he's not dead. It's a death match, but he's not. You know, he'll regenerate in a pile.
He's just armless. Possibly lost a leg or two, depending on how rage-filled one gets with the other.
Yeah. So I think in this case, and if you guys at home disagree with us, let us know. But I think Grassman takes it. I think Grassman though comes there with maybe an injury, nothing major. You know, he's just from the sheer strength alone. He's definitely weakened. He comes out of this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, he will have taken a bit of a beating, but I think he would have given the put down to the other. Charles Mel Monster.
Okay, so we got Grassman surviving with mild injuries, and the Charles No Monster is now a pile at the moment of compost that will later reform and go on to lead a long life.
Deadpool style.
All right, well that's our first bracket done. Next on our agenda is we kind of wanted to talk about our top 5 wrestlers. No particular order at all, but we'll go ahead and start over here with you, Matt.
Okay. So number 1 for sure, Shawn Michaels. I know that I'm a little bit biased given like the first ever match that I've ever seen with Shawn Michaels.
Right.
But his faction work, his in-ring work, just by himself, and the tag teams that he's formed throughout the years, I think that alone cements him as my greatest of all time. Just on mic ability, main event status, like it factor.
Okay, fair enough. I'm gonna also agree that Shawn Michaels is in my top 5. He's not my number 1, but he's definitely also in my top 10 for a lot of the same reasons. Of course, I'm old enough to remember when he was a part of the Rockers and how amazing that tag team was. They'd go up against like the Conquistadors, the Killer Bees, Alpha. Like, there's so many good tag teams back then. They had this energy, man. Him and Marty Jannetty together had this energy that really sucked me in. And I will literally never forget when he turned on Marty during the barbershop. Yep, during the barbershop. And put him through the candy glass window of the barbershop with Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
That is still iconic.
It's iconic as fuck. So yeah, I got to go with you on Shawn Michaels in my top 5, man. What about you, Jenny?
Okay, my top would probably be Kane.
That is a very valid reason.
Okay.
Generally because at the time I started wrestling, he had walked more like Dad, and that's why he caught my attention. The sheer height and how he walked, and then I just enjoyed watching him progress with the storyline.
Okay. Yeah.
I would say that Kane is probably one of my top 5s of all time.
So if we're in round 2, Kane's one in your top 5s too?
Yeah.
I gotta agree. We're already almost back to you again, Jenny, because I know Kane was already in both of our top 5s as well. The Big Red Machine. And as a wrestler, he's pretty badass too. I mean, he did some silly stuff and some amusing stuff before then, obviously, in his career. We're not going to go into all the individual wrestlers each of them were. I mean, if we're having specific episodes about them, we will.
Yeah.
But for now, for the sake of everything. So we're back to you again, Jenny. Another wrestler for your top 5.
Definitely. They were a duo, not Edge, but
Christian.
He had long Christian. Yeah. No.
Edge and Christian were the duo.
Yeah. Yeah. Then it was the other guy of the second duo.
Hardy Boys?
Yeah, I don't know.
Matt and Jeff Hardy?
Don't know. I'm sorry, I am totally useless at this point, but
you're fine.
One was shorter and one was taller with longer hair.
It sounds like
Eddie and Ray?
It sounds like she's still describing Christian and Edge to me.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, probably.
Both have blonde hair?
It's not. It was his partner.
Yeah, that'd have been Christian.
Yeah, that would have been Christian. Yeah,
Yep.
I may still be exactly. I may be describing them, but I knew it was his partner that I had liked more.
Okay, and you don't hear a lot of Christian love these days. I'm a big fan of both of them. In the beginning, when they came out, it was a wrestler called Gangrel, who was a vampire, had abducted this young boy whose name was Christian, and Christian's brother Edge showed up as a vampire hunter to kill Gangrel and save his brother. And that was the whole initial storyline that they came in with.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yep. And then, in order to save his brother, he had to become a vampire, and then he fell under Gangrel's control. So they were a trio called the Brood, which later joined the Ministry with Undertaker and the rest of the Ministry before they got sacrificed.
Yep, and we're the first to be gone.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, that's cool, though. I didn't think about Christian. Yeah. So give me a third one from your top 5 there, Matt.
Let's see. I know this is a biased pick for my generation, but I have to go John Cena.
But you can't even see him. We don't even know what he looks like. It's crazy.
It's nuts. He's multiple.
I think I'll agree with him because I do know the name. He was cool.
John Cena. I got to be honest. Like as a human being, I think he's amazing. If I'm being completely honest with you guys, I'm a big fan of his. But like, as a human being and as an actor, he's not even. He's a pretty good actor too, man. Especially his comedy stuff and SNL. Holy shit! But I never got into. I was around from the very beginning of him, and yeah, I mean, Jeremy brings up something I love being a good actor. Peacemaker, his character in Peacemaker. Well, he plays Peacemaker. Oh my god, is that epic?
See, like the reason behind me, he'd be number 5, because when I take into best wrestlers, I also talk about their in-ring ability. So, and John Cena's always been given shit about his in-ring ability, but the promo work and like the it factor, like Hulk Hogan, I think that alone cements him in top 5.
I get it. Yeah. All right. Cool, man. He's not in mine, but that's awesome. Jeremy says Junkyard Dog, Big John Studd, and Jimmy Superfly Snuka were his heroes in his early years.
Oh yeah.
Those are good choices, and we also have another beloved wrestler. Del mentions Rowdy Piper. Very nice.
The hot rod, man.
The hot rod. Fuck yeah. You know, obviously, you know, so a lot of the wrestlers we're going to talk about are no longer with us anymore.
Yeah.
Piper's one of them. Yeah, well, we're going to have a whole episode about Andre, I promise you. We're huge Andre fans.
Oh, yeah.
But when it comes to Piper, man, like, he was in my favorite John Carpenter film. And you would think, sorry, my second favorite John Carpenter film. My first is The Thing. But They Live. That's where he had to wear the glasses and he could see the aliens. I've done so many, like, reports on that for different pop culture classes and all kinds of stuff. But, like, that's an example of a Roddy movie, man. He shows up. He's here to do two things, you know, chew bubblegum and kick ass, and he's all out of bubblegum. And the last thing he actually ever did right before he passed was a short film where he played the super in, what was it? He played the super for an apartment building.
Yes.
He was a super and he was a maintenance guy. It was like a 20-30 minute movie, and it was about him fighting basically Cthulhu in an apartment building.
That's awesome.
And of course, pro wrestlers versus zombies. Oh yeah, best fight scene ever, and They Live 100%. Jeremy says that he wanted to hate Cena, and the man made me a lover. That's what he said. Nice.
It's always been a love-hate relationship with Cena.
Hearing him rap in the early days was, I don't know, man. So I've been thinking about it, and I think I've actually got to strike Sean from a record. Actually, no, I'm gonna leave him on there. I'll just have an honorable mention later. My third one. And this is my number one, guys. Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, the bad guy of all bad guys of literally all time. Again, I remember seeing him at a super early age. I made the jump. I didn't really watch WCW until him and Nash went over there. I just didn't care as much about WCW until they went over there. You know, of course, the whole DX, them driving the tank over to get their friends back.
Oh yeah,
like that was pretty awesome. But like. Just everything about the guy. You know, he had a tough run, obviously. He had his issues in life. A lot of people do. But his machismo, his presence, like, as a kid, like seeing him as a bad guy, I had seen plenty of bad guys before him. But when I think of the bad guy, that's who I think about, man. He was the ultimate heel. He was smooth. People wanted to be him. But they also wanted to beat his ass. But he also didn't care. Exactly. He literally did not give a shit about anyone. He didn't care about himself that much. He just didn't care. He was cool. He was aloof, and he was probably going to beat your ass. And if he didn't beat your ass, he would put on the greatest show of his life. For example, that ladder match with Shawn.
Yep.
Yeah, for that Intercontinental title, man.
Another match that, whenever it comes to mind with Razor Ramon, is diaper match with 1-2-3 Kid.
1-2-3 Kid, aka 6. X-Pac, yeah, he's got like a million names, but yeah, dude, that was another great one because that was the first thing that had ever happened involving like any kind of a diaper thing, like majorly anyway.
Yes, it was a dumb match, but it was a great match.
It was an 80s gimmick
match.
It was
the 80s.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned.
But yeah, that would be my third. But he's my top spot, Razor Ramon.
Okay, my third would probably be Andre as my top spot, but also not only because of the wrestling, he was the kindest of all the wrestlers that my mom got to meet that day.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's
That
awesome,
is so
dude.
awesome.
Andre is most certainly in my top 5. Most fucking certainly. I would say he's probably somewhere between. He's got to be number 3 for me in my lineup because Jesus, it's fucking Andre, man. Like if
Yes.
you read anything about Andre, or I've heard anything about Andre, and my favorite part about Andre is actually all the stuff that happened when he was doing Princess Bride. A lot of people don't actually know this. So, a couple things on that made me laugh so hard. So Andre could not read well. So the director actually recorded himself reading the entire script to give to Andre, and that's how Andre learned all his lines in the movie, which I thought was amazing. Like it was
That
just
is
like his
awesome.
dedication, the director's dedication, like it's amazing. My favorite thing is about it. Any wrestler or anyone who ever knew Andre would tell you that he thought farts were hilarious. There are stories upon stories about him farting like loudly in inopportune moments. Like everyone has an Andre farting story. On the set of Princess Bride, he would wait until everybody got quiet in a really serious moment and just rip ass. And every time he did it, he would make himself laugh first. So you would know when it was happening. Hey, Dante.
Oh my god. Hello.
Say hi.
So it's one of those like really funny things about Andre, but he was just a good dude, man. A great wrestler, a good dude.
I think I have to put him number 4. One, just alone from the Hulk Hogan and Andre rivalry.
Oh
and how
yeah.
influential that was.
See, I was
for
growing up. I
wrestling
was
in
little.
general. I know.
Yeah, that was my early wrestling days. Was watching their rivalry. That was the first big rivalry I ever really paid attention to as a kid.
One of my favorite memories of Andre is randomly going up on Google and searching Andre the Giant and finding a photo of Arnold Schwarzenegger, Wilt Chamberlain, and Andre the Giant right next to each other.
Yeah.
Those dudes are all huge, and Andre just towers over all of them.
See, I've done screwed all my stuff up because I realized my whole thing. We were not gonna be able to do top 5. Top 5 is just not gonna work. So we'll throw some extras in there because Sean should not have been on mine at all. Not even anywhere.
I think
Yeah.
these people I'm picking for a reason.
Yeah. Who else you got?
2 and number 3 left.
Because Scott's actually my second favorite wrestler because I'm dumb as shit. You know who my favorite is. We'll get to that in a minute.
I think number 3 for me is probably got to be Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I love Stone Cold. He's not in my top, but like I've always loved Stone Cold. Because when he shows up, you know shit's gonna go down. You don't know what, but it's gonna involve somebody getting a stunner and him drinking a beer.
And like Stone Cold's rivalries alone throughout his whole entire career have been so consistent, and the storylines behind them, like
yeah.
with Vince teaming up with Rock, and then Rock turning on
Yeah.
Vince to help Austin, and then Austin turning it back and going and working with Vince. It's just that was the whole.
Yeah, that was nuts. That was a good story though, man. They were all good stories involving him. So yeah, I'm actually need to switch some things up because again I'm a moron. This is you guys getting to know us episode and like why we're into wrestling. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty stoned. I gotta switch out Sean for Triple H because if I gotta pick between the two of them, I think Triple H is actually a little bit more in my spot as much as I love and I've always loved Sean. The game. I remember when he came out with a poodle. Helmsley from England. You know, like back in the day, like that was holy shit, man. There was just something about him. Like he was a heel. He wasn't the best heel until he started hanging out with Hall and Nash more, you know, and then and the Click and Sean. And of course Triple H, you know, he invented Suck It, man.
Was it him or was it all of DX that came up?
It kind of was probably all of them, but he's what I remember doing. I remember seeing do the Suck It first.
I think the first person I saw do it was X-Pac.
Okay. Another cool thing about Triple H is the film world. He actually had the weirdest cameo where he carried around a vampire poodle in Blade 3.
Yeah, I love that.
It was the throwback to Hunter
It
herself.
was-
The other people and
That's
everything.
awesome.
Yes.
I loved it. It was so good. And I got to switch out Kane for the real the grandfather, the king, if you will, of horror wrestlers. And that's Undertaker. 1991. You know, when
Yeah.
he first.
That's who I was gonna list next. Cause
Cool. We can all talk about
Yeah.
Undertaker then.
oh yeah. I loved his aesthetic. I loved the looks everybody got in the ring whenever he showed up. It was awesome.
Oh yeah. I remember when he first popped out of the coffin at Hulk Hogan in '91. Man, like just. By the way, they had all these like coffins and stuff set up. Like there's this Paul Bearer guy. Like he'd been on a little bit before, but it's like, what the fuck is this? What is happening right now? And then he comes out of the casket. And I'm just like, holy shit! And when I really saw this, I think it was like I think it was the '91 Survivor Series. And the way, well, I'll talk about that later. That's going to be a pay-per-view we're going to have to talk about in depth in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a super fun one. But yeah, Undertaker, man, he's one of the longest wrestlers in the business, and he's retired. But you know, Mark never quite really, truly retired.
Yeah, we all thought that Ric Flair was retired too, and that
Until
happened.
they come up with a good enough storyline for him to say, "Hey, I want to come play."
Yeah.
See, oddly enough, my favorite Undertaker isn't even a horror character of his. It's the American Badass gimmick. It's just what I grew up with.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You grew up like getting into wrestling with the American Badass,
Exactly.
and I grew up with the Undertaker.
Yep.
And I got a family that are bikers. I'm into the biker scene, but like exactly what Dante said. No, I did not like it when he cut his hair and did the whole biker thing. That was a part of his history that I don't particularly care for. I'd rather see him back with his tag team, the Bounty Hunters, fighting Hulk Hogan and Suburban Commando. You know what I mean? Like I'd rather see that come back than I'd rather see American Badass.
But also,
personally.
I got the Phenom too, which is honestly, I think that's his second best gimmick. The Phenom Undertaker.
Phenom was a good era. Ministry just looked cool.
Yeah.
It wasn't his greatest character, but Ministry Undertaker just looked fucking cool. We could probably do a whole episode just on Undertaker, to be honest
Exactly.
with you.
We could probably do that. That would
but
be
yeah.
enjoyable.
But yeah, man, Undertaker was a fucking badass.
Yeah, I think Undertaker has to replace Kane for my number 4.
Yeah. So now that I've got my shit back in order now, and I've got 2 left. Number 1 wrestler of all time. This is my number. Yeah, my 4th. My actual number 1 is Mick Foley. Whether it's Mankind is who I fell in love with, but I love Dude Love, Cactus Jack. I love all his personalities. As a human being, and I've met him, I've met a lot of wrestlers. He's been my favorite person that I've ever met as a wrestler. Probably the nicest human being I've ever seen in the entire fucking world. To rival Andre. I think if you're going to talk about a good, kind guy that helps charities, that really cares about the business and everyone he wrestles and everything he does, I think he beats Andre only because Andre passed so many years ago and Mick had so many more years to be there, to be seen, to do things, and is still around and still doing charity work and still bringing smiles to people's faces, which is the most important thing to him, he said in many interviews.
I mean, without Mankind, the Monday Night Wars are done.
Yeah. And we'll definitely talk about that another time. Yeah. Yeah. Mankind would, he was, he was everything.
WCW might be Raw if there's no Mankind.
Very possible. But yeah, man, just Mick. I love me some Mick.
Definitely always a good guy to go with.
Shoot us another one.
You guys, DMX was definitely one I knew. Mick Foley is definitely one of my favorites. But he had a blonde, short hair, had a catchphrase I cannot remember. Definitely one of the older wrestlers. Bright blonde dyed hair.
Are you talking about?
Without a team?
Sid Vicious.
I thought you were talking about Ric Flair.
Yes.
Woo!
Ric Flair.
Woo!
Yeah.
As soon as she said had a catchphrase
Oh,
that
yeah.
had like white blonde hair, I knew exactly what she meant. Yeah.
I don't know why I went straight to Sid Vicious.
That's also another story for another time. But dude, yeah, Ric Flair is like he's a king.
He is.
He's wrestling fucking royalty. It's weird to mention Hogan and not mention him.
That is true. Even before WWE was even a thing, when Senior had the company still,
Mm-hmm.
Ric Flair was all of that company.
Yeah, Ric Flair was, it's not whether he's a good wrestler or not. He is who he is because of the gimmick, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
The gimmick is what made him.
The gimmick, the catchphrase, the sheer confidence that he brings to any situation.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
He was like the first true man with a gimmick. Like when it comes down to like flashy dressing and like I want to be that rich character.
Yeah.
That was even before $1 Million Man.
Yeah. I mean, there are older gimmicks
Yeah.
than Flair. There are plenty of older gimmicks. Gimmicks started when wrestling kind of started.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's definitely a great.
But he's definitely the most influential.
And we're gonna do one more round for fun.
Okay.
Toss us out another one there, Matt.
Let's see. I think Jeff Hardy has to be up there.
Jeff Hardy? Okay. I do love me some Hardy Boys, man.
Mm-hmm.
Not even from the Hardy Boys gimmick in general. Just Jeff Hardy as a wrestler. I know he's had his fair shares of ups and downs in the company, but when he was on top, he was just like John Cena, man.
Oh yeah.
Just that it factor. Everybody wanted to be like Jeff Hardy when I was growing up, man.
Oh yeah. Same. I love Jeff. Doesn't make it in my tops of anything, but I do love Jeff, man. But I love the Hardys. That's the thing. Like I love them together, and we'll do a thing with tag teams here soon too. But it's just them together, man. Also, for mine, and this is another controversial choice, but I absolutely love this wrestler, Ken Kennedy, Mr. Kennedy. He wasn't around for a super long time, but he also started the same time John Cena did.
That's true.
So like we're going back pretty far. Kennedy was the bad guy. Razor Ramon had always been the bad guy. Was the greatest of all the bad guys. But here came Mr. Kennedy in a very short time. In a very short time, he was already giving Razor a little bit of a run for his money. Unfortunately, his career in WWE fell short for many controversial reasons, which we will do a show about.
Oh yeah.
But he was one of those guys that I think if he had been given the time, with his mic skills alone, he could have actually taken Razor's title. I strongly believe that he could have taken the bad guy title from Razor, from Scott, had the time and opportunity been afforded. But he's on my, special mention list.
I also think that the Miz kind of took the bad guy gimmick too.
He modernized the bad guy gimmick.
Yeah.
There's a difference between heel and bad guy.
True. That is very true.
But Miz is probably one of the best heels of your generation for sure. Like probably about the best heel for your generation. Yeah.
I think he's number one.
Oh yeah. Anyone else you want to throw out there, Jenny?
I think you may have already said his name. During one of his incarnations in the ring, he always had long hair and a beard, but this one was a whole lot of tie-dye.
Oh yeah, that was when Mick Foley played Dude Love.
That was Mick Foley. Yeah,
Yep,
that's what I was thinking.
Love.
Yeah, Mick Foley's definitely on my list because I was thinking it was Foley, but I wanted to make sure.
Yep. That was one of his personalities. Dude Love, man. I remember the Royal Rumble where he was in it like multiple times as different versions of himself, where he would just do a costume change, but then he got caught in the ring being two of them at one time, and he threw himself out. Like that was that's classic Mick Foley right there.
Like the history behind the Dude Love gimmick too is like what gets me, because he used that in his Tennessee days, and Vince was like, you know what, you want to bring that gimmick up to the WWE, and he did it for a while, and it went over really well with the fans.
Oh yeah, big time. So yeah, that brings us to the end of our mentions. We are actually almost done. We are going to get to our second match of the night for our brackets. The last match we'll be doing tonight. We have the Kirtland Melonheads versus the Mothman of Gallia County. All right, let's start off with the Kirtland Melonheads. Bring up a little bit of information, and we're gonna throw some stuff up here for you guys. All right, the Melonheads. There's a Legends of Melonheads actually in a lot of different states. Like we're talking. Traditionally, Connecticut, Ohio, and Michigan are the strongest Melonhead legends. Legend of Ohio goes that the Melonhead stories of Ohio are primarily associated with the Cleveland suburb known as Kirtland and Lake County. According to local lore, the Melonheads were originally orphans under the watch of a mysterious figure known as Dr. Crow. Crow is said to have performed unusual experiments on the children, who developed large, hairless heads and malformed bodies. Some accounts claim that the children were already suffering the hydrocephalus and that Crow injected even more fluid into their brains. Eventually, as the legend continued, the children killed Crow, burned the orphanage, and retreated to the surrounding forests, and supposedly they feed on babies and small children.
Okay.
So, yeah. That's a super weird thing. They're basically children sized, although some adults have been seen supposedly or more adult sized. I'm gonna get a picture up here, and I think I like this picture here the best. So this is the one we're gonna.
This one is awesome.
Actually, no, this one's better. All right,
I
so
can't see either of them.
you're about to.
Oh yeah.
You're about to.
You're gonna want to see this.
I gotta pull this up. All right, let's go back here. Let's add this in here. And again, I'll have these overlays done ahead of time next time. Just,
You
know, we're a lazy show today. So here's an artist rendering of what the Melonheads could look like. Yeah, but they are super famous and worth mentioning because they are actually considered a cryptid.
Yeah.
Because of their strange nature. It looks like if you were to give the child of Dracula encephalitis.
Yeah, basically.
Just the way it's closed, like the whole everything. So that's what we're looking with the melon.
It looks like a humanoid zombie.
Oh yeah, yeah. Which again, back here to the bracket. Actually, I'm not gonna go back to the bracket because I can tell you, it's Mothman. Now, Mothman. Oh. I legit love me some Mothman. Give me 1 second here.
Oh yeah.
The uninitiated, we should probably explain a little bit. Again, this is largely rooted in West Virginia culture, guys. So, on November 15th, 1996, two young couples from Point Pleasant in West Virginia, Roger and Linda Scarberry, and Steve and Mary Millette, told police they'd seen a large white creature whose eyes glowed red, standing at the side of the road near the TNT area, site of a former World War II munitions plant. Linda Scarberry described it as a slender, muscular man, about 7 feet tall, white wings, and said that she was unable to discern its face due to the hypnotic effect of its eyes. Distressed, the witnesses drove away at high speed and said that the creature flew away after their car, making a screeching sound, and pursued them as far as Point Pleasant. There's a lot of stories about the Mothman. There are movies. There's so many different things about him. He was also sighted right before a major bridge collapse, and people felt that he was warning people to safety that the bridge was going to collapse. And that was a bridge between West Virginia and Ohio. There's a lot of sightings as far as Ohio goes in that area, getting not too far from the Athens area where we talked about the grass man being from earlier.
Yeah.
So let's see if we can get a really cool picture of Mothman here. One that I like because I'm a little picky. And I like the ones that look funnier because, that amuses me. Actually, here's one straight from the museum. Let's use... Oh, no, this is the stat. This is an actual famous statue, so it seems like it'll work just fine. Let me bring it up here in StreamYard. And there we go. This is the actual statue of Mothman. You can see at Point Pleasant, West Virginia. So that's kind of his look. Again, we know he's about 7 feet tall. So he's not too far off the Bigfoot size for scope. Obviously, far bigger than the fucking Melonhead kids.
Yes.
So not all our matches are going to be created
fair.
equally because we had to randomly generate them in order for pure fairness.
Yeah, and I think that Mothman just swoops him up and drops him to his death.
Or takes bites out of him.
Yeah, I feel like this is gonna the ring's gonna go. He's gonna wrap his wings and his body around this little thing,
Yeah.
bring it up, fly into the sky, eat its head, and just drop its body.
Yeah, I think that's how it's gonna go.
Or whatever other parts of the body it tends to like most before it drops it.
Yeah,
Or the
yeah.
whole entire thing.
Yeah, this was not an even matchup between the two of them.
They
And this
can't fly. With them being deformed, there's no way they have the strength or the body power.
Right,
Oh no.
right.
All I have to say is we love you, Melonheads, but
Yeah.
you have no chance.
Yeah, yeah, and that actually works for being in the second match, being a little shorter towards the end of the show. I feel bad because I'm not. These things aren't known to be intelligent at all. The Melonheads, they go out and they eat children and small babies and they run away. People have supposedly beaten them to death with sticks.
Yeah.
Like there's all kinds of stories about the Melonheads, like crazy, crazy stories. But it's just culturally they're a big thing, cryptid-wise in Ohio, and again also Michigan and Connecticut. So it's just one of those things we had to include. So unfortunately, Melonheads, yeah, you kind of go down. And speaking of Melonheads, the reminding people have a myth of vampiric watermelons and pumpkins. Yep. And you're right, they were indeed squashed like a melon. I feel like the Smashing Pumpkin song probably played in the background during this match. Yep. And I think not only does Mothman win, I think he comes out of this completely unscathed,
unharmed.
rested, and full.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he's in good shape after this match.
Easiest snack he's ever been given.
Yeah, that was gonna be the easiest match we'll probably ever call during all this too. So that's literally that's 4. So the next episode we do 2 weeks from today will be the next 4 wrestlers facing off, and we'll take a look at what those are. We're gonna have. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? Sometimes I forget that I have to remove comments because I'm dumb. It's gonna be the Crosswick Monster, which is that alligator thingy, versus the Loveland Frog. So you've got a frog man and a gator thing. That's kind of interesting. After that, it is the Werewolf of Defiance versus the Peninsula Python. So we have some pretty evened up matches.
Yeah.
I think that the Melonheads and Mothman was probably our only uneven matchup of the whole bunch.
That was our squash match, literally.
And I should note that what we talked about earlier just kind of accidentally happened. When we get to the semifinals, it looks like it is going to be the Grassman versus the Mothman, who are right next to each other in real life as well.
That's going to be a great match.
So yeah, that's going to be in 2 shows. So 4 weeks from now is when you'll see that matchup.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so that's pretty interesting. So we'll have a cooler graphic for our round robin. I was just in a hurry today, and that's what I grabbed because I slacked off a little bit too much. Let me pop that out there. But yeah, guys, we're at that hour mark. We're probably going to go ahead and wrap up here. Thank you so much for everybody that joined us. Like seriously, Dell, Jeremy, we had Michelle in here for a little bit, and all you guys at home that watch this later on. I know there's other shows going on, and it's a busy Friday night.
Yes, it is.
So it doesn't matter where whether you see our shows live or you see them recorded, you will be able to find them on YouTube underneath the Owl Light Network. So we're going to do real quick. We're going to go one by one. We're going to talk about where you can find us. Matt, where can we find you?
You can find me at Twitch, Matt Props with the Z, and also TikTok and Snapchat as well.
We'll be getting those links updated here before the next show. You can find me at rastyslasher.com or wherever toys are sold or wherever Jenny decides to put me up next. But primarily here on the Owl Light Network because this is home. And also you can find Matt on the couch, just, in case you're curious. What about you, Jenny? Where can we find you?
Main places are Friday with the library and the Blue Box, or my group Friday with the Disorganized Library in the Blue Box, or leave a message on Raz's page or Allight Network, and I promise I'll get back to you then.
Fantastic. Well, Matt, you want to take us home?
Alrighty. So we're getting ready for Tribal Court, of course. It's actually going on right now. We gotta look forward to that, and we'll be seeing you guys later. I'm Matt.
I'm the monster.
See
I'm
ya.
Jenny.
Good fight, good night.
Yeah. Suck it.
Exactly.